My name is Sarah Ray, and this is my individual project for Music History 2. Today I'm going to talk to you about two pieces, one of which is by a French composer, whose name I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce because I don't really know anything about French, so I'm probably going to butcher it. Forgive me. And the other by a German composer. So today we'll be comparing the two pieces, François Couperin? François Couperin. I have no idea. We're going to call him C, so I don't keep butchering his name. We're going to be talking about his piece that I also don't want to mispronounce, so I'm putting it down here with the specific excerpt of La Visionnaire, and we will be comparing that to Fanny Mendelssohn's Das Jahr with the December movement. So first let's talk about C. C was a French Baroque composer and harpsichordist, and this particular piece is of course for the harpsichord, and it was published in 1730. It was part of a book of suites that was intended for amateurs to be able to play for their own entertainment, which is something that we also later see in later eras and something that we've talked about in Music History 2. The suites in the book consisted mostly of dances in binary form, much like earlier keyboard suites. C gave suggestive titles to most of the movements in his suites, this one being La Visionnaire, which means the visionary of the seer. Giving the pieces these different titles made these character pieces, and he was the first one to kind of do that. Again, character pieces are something that comes up later and keeps popping up over time. Each title that he gave a suite had something to do with the way the music sounded, which is what makes it a character piece. And this is very unlike any other piece from the 17th century. La Visionnaire is actually the first movement of this particular suite, and is a whimsical take on the conventions of the French overture. He used tirades, which are short notes with fast runs, and he combined this with the overture style to create the idea of powerful or supernatural characters, like in French opera. This is how he deemed the title of The Visionary fitting for this piece. And he also uses a lot of other French elements in this piece, like French overture form, short phrases, dotted figures, short ideas being spun out by sequence, etc. So now let's take a listen. So that was that piece, and that movement lasts about 1 minute and 53 seconds. So now let's move on to Fanny Mendelssohn's piece. Fanny Mendelssohn was a German pianist and composer. Her piece is for piano, and she actually focused a lot of her activities as a performing composer on more of a semi-public basis, having different musical gatherings in her home, because back then women didn't really work, much less get to really perform a whole lot. So this piece, Das Jahr, which is the year, is a cycle of character pieces that represent each month from January to December, plus a postlude. So again, bringing back another character piece from a completely different era. She began working on Das Jahr on August 28th, 1841, and she completed it December 23rd and gave it to her husband as a Christmas gift. Later on, she decided to revise it a bit and prepared a fair copy with drawings by her husband, actually, to decorate the beginning of each piece. And this was revised and edited. Sorry, that was my dog. This was revised and edited several other times. Das Jahr actually went unpublished for almost a century. She never published it during her lifetime. It was later rediscovered and edited in the 1980s with the first public performance not until 1987. The December movement, which is what we'll be listening to and comparing today, exists in 3 different versions. And the piece doesn't really follow a standard form, but it's more of a logical sequence of musical ideas that are divided into 2 main sections. It kind of begins with a sort of snowstorm theme because December is the winter time, and in very many places, except for Texas, there's usually snow. The music portrays this kind of snowstorm by blurring 16th notes with the sustaining pedal. The piece begins to change really rapidly, like a blizzard does, and it kind of creates the idea of the snowstorm getting stronger and stronger. By the end of the piece, the snowstorm seems to disappear and all is well again. So let's take a listen. So that was part of Fanny Mendelssohn's December movement of Das Jahr. Both of these pieces are kind of more up-tempo, key pieces. Key meaning harpsichord and piano. So they're played by very similar instruments, almost the same thing. And though they were composed for different purposes, they definitely have their similarities, kind of like the things we've talked about, how they're both character pieces, and the different ways that the composers made the pieces into character pieces and things like that. You can also definitely tell that they were composed at different time periods. The first one was composed in the Baroque era, and this most recent one was composed during the Romantic era. And you can tell that they were not composed around the same time just based on listening to it. Both composers really sought out to grasp the characterization for each piece, and I think that they both did a really good job with that. And like I've also mentioned before, the development of the character piece is definitely something that doesn't go away anytime soon. The first piece that we discussed was one of the first ones to kind of be a character piece, because that composer is the one that kind of created the idea of a character instrumental piece, or at least for harpsichord. Both of these pieces can really show that even though style of music may change over time, the core of it all can last a lifetime.